Good evening. Let's continue from our last class. So, in our last class, we are just discussing what are the constitutional provisions and facts for the tribals. Okay, so in the second block, in our second unit, so most of the constitutional safeguards we have discussed, and how those safeguards are termed as they are being considered as protectively, or you are knowingly discriminating those tribal community, just to protect themselves for the betterment of their life. Okay, so that those policies or those safeguards, they are called as they're termed as these are the some safeguards or acts or article for the protective discriminations. Okay, and there are some other legislations or other policies and programs are there, which are solely meant for the tribal communities of India. One of them is the Prevention of Atrocities Act, which was enacted in 1989. Okay, so that is SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. So, as we have seen that the tribal communities of India throughout the ages, as we have discussed already, uh, they are they are subject to different kind of atrocities by the non-tribal communities. Okay, as from the very beginning we discussed that they are considered as uh, non uh, the non-group or the outer group of the mainstream society. Okay, and they're considered the weaker and secluded, and they're not considered as the part of our society. So definitely they are considered as the subject to exploit. Okay, in any form. From the like the Britishers, they have exploited economically, physically, or there are many other forms of exploitations were there. Okay, so from the very beginning of the history, as we have discussed that they are subject of the exploitation and different forms of atrocities. Okay, so and and also after the post independence or the independence, you will see uh, this act which was enacted in 1989. Okay, so there were you can find many decades it has passed. Okay, so till those years, that kind of atrocity which was not stopped. Okay, so in 89 we have to form, or we have to enact another, bring another legislature to curb those kind of atrocities or those kind of exploitations or humiliations. Okay, so these acts main purpose is just to provide a special court for the trial of such offenses. Okay, so they have, and it also tried to facilitate relief and rehabilitation of the victims of such offenses. Okay, so this this act specially provide a separate court to dispose those kind of cases which has that component of ACST atrocities. Okay, and it definitely, it also act it also tries to punish the committant who have committed those kind of atrocities. Okay, and definitely that offender which are not, those are not belonging to the SCST communities. Okay, so there are some areas on which atrocities on SC or scheduled tribe and scheduled caste are happening. Okay, so what are those categories or what are those area? Can just discuss that. First category or first area is, that is, dehumanizing or humiliation. Okay, so sometimes you will see that mm, uh, in many till now you will find in many newspapers or in news channel broadcasting that these communities are forced to eat certain inedible objects like uh, human excreta or many kind of things which are not edible. They're forced to eat or drink those kind of things. So those are the inhuman treatments. Okay, so till those kind of instances are found in present society. Okay, and sometimes they are we knowingly cause injury, insult, or annoyance to any member of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe by dumping human excreta, waste matter, carcasses, or any other obnoxious substances in the premises on the human beings or in his premises or neighborhood. Okay, so those kind of activities are also done. So these are considered as the dehumanizing treatments. Okay, and forcibly sometimes for any kind especially in those kangaroo courts or in those local that is a political body where they dissolve the local issues or their village issues, or you can say the community issues. In those cases or in those institutions you will find forcibly they try to remove the clothes from the person from the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in the name of we are punishing you. Okay, so these kind of inhuman activities are not acceptable and these are punishable. And some other kind of other form of areas where atrocities are happening is false accusations. Okay, and for example instituting false and malicious or vexatious suit or criminal or other legal proceedings against the members of SCSTs. We try to we try to frame some false accusation against those communities, uh, members of those communities or community as a whole, so that are also considered as the atrocities against the those tribal communities. Okay, and giving or fabricating false evidence intending thereby to cause any member of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe to be convicted of an offense which is capital by the law. For example, we support or we try to fabricate different kind of evidences just to punish that individual who is uh, belonging to that scheduled caste and scheduled tribe community. So that can also be considered as the at one form of atrocities. Okay, and another area where atrocities are happening is that false information. Okay, giving any false or frivolous information to any public servants, thereby causing such public servants to use his lawful power to the injury or annoyance of any member of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. If we give the false information, for example, you have seen that in those Naxalite areas, okay, if one person who is not belonging to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe giving false information regarding yes that person has a some connection with the that Naxalite group. Okay, so that kind of false information will also be considered as the that is called as the atrocities on the scheduled caste and scheduled communities. Okay, scheduled caste and scheduled tribals. Okay, and another area that is forced disposition, wrongfully occupying or cultivating any land owned by the scheduled owned land which is owned by the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe members, and or by any other notified by the any other competent authority, which or allocated by the allocated to those scheduled tribe and scheduled caste communities. Okay, and if wrongfully those lands were transferred, okay, there are certain rules and regulations are there for the land transfer or land exchange, okay, that has to be followed. So if those lands were tactfully or wrongly it is taken away from those scheduled caste and scheduled community, then it can also be considered as the atrocities against those communities. Okay, and next form or areas where atrocities are happening, that is obvious, that is the physical torture. Okay, uh, you have seen many of the cases of those physical tortures, like hampering or assaulting or using force to any human belonging to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe with the intent to dishonor her modesty. Okay, so that can also be considered in one way. You will be punished by the other IPC code, but that this can also belong to that scheduled caste scheduled tribe atrocities act. Okay, so you will be separately tried for these kind of activities if the victims belong to that scheduled tribe and scheduled caste community. Okay, bring a being in a position to dominate the will of a woman belong to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe and use that position to exploit her sexually, to which she would not have otherwise agreed, that can also be considered as the atrocities. Okay, for example, in a any working place, if the employer wants to exploit uh, the scheduled caste and scheduled tribal women in any form, so that can also be considered as the atrocities on that group. Okay, so physical torture is another form of atrocities, and that will also be punishable. Okay, and another area where these atrocities is happening, that is deprivation of right. There are some instances where or areas, cases where these community they are deprived of their own right. Okay, so that can also be considered as the atrocities on those communities. Okay, so for example, forcing or intimidating a person uh, of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe not to vote, or to vote to a particular candidate, okay, or to vote in a manner other than that that provided by the law. Okay, so if you are influencing that person, you are trying to you're trying to influence, you're trying to affect that person right or his intention uh, to vote, he's a if to vote to a particular candidate or not to vote, okay, or how to vote. Okay, if in any way you are affecting that act, it means you are uh, you can be booked or you can be punished by under the act of atrocities. Okay, so that should be that are considered as the uh, offensible act. Okay, and another instance is that contaminate the water of any spring or the water bodies where from where they are using, okay, for the drinking water source, for any other kind of sources from where they are using. Okay, so contaminating the water of any spring, reservoir, or any other source ordinarily used by the member of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, so as to tender or to lace fit or to make it laced fit for the purpose which it is ordinarily used. For example, they are using a particular stream for their drinking purpose. Okay, if that water is contaminated, For example, you have seen that in the mining areas, those water reservoirs are contaminated because of different kind of emissions from the those factories. Okay, so that can also be considered as the atrocities on their rights of living or anything. Okay, so you are affecting their minimum standard of living. Okay, so those kind of act, and knowingly or unknowingly, if you are hampering or if you are tampering their rights, so it can also be considered as the offense under the atrocities act. Okay, and another area is that denying a member of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe any customary right of passage to place of public resort, or obstructing such member as so as to prevent him from using or having access to a place of public resort to which other members of public or any section thereof have a right. Okay, for example, you're restricting them to enter uh, those religious places, like restaurant or like educational institutions. You have seen that uh, in many cases, the children belonging to those scheduled caste and scheduled tribe community, they are sitting out of the classroom in various schools. Okay, so that kind of act is also you are denying them from their, depriving them from their right, educational rights. Okay, so those are also offenses under the atrocities act. Okay, so we are trying to restricting them not to enter various kind of common use areas, for a park, educational institution, or cinema hall, or any some restaurant or any such public use areas. Okay, this should not be, that right should be given to those individuals. Okay, so and another area is that destruction of the property of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Okay, like you are some committing mischievous activities to light fire or explosive substance intending to cause, or knowing it to be likely that he will be thereby caused damaged to any property belong to a member of SCSTs. Okay, knowingly you are trying to affect the property of those members. Okay, so that can also be considered as the atrocities on those communities' rights. Okay, and committing mischief by fire, by the fire or any explosive substance intending to cause, or knowing it to be likely what that he will thereby cause destruction of any building which is ordinarily used by the that scheduled caste and scheduled tribe community members. Okay, like lighting fire uh, on the area where they are worshipping. Okay, like forest fire, it will definitely affect their places of worship. Okay, so it has to be there should be a concern regarding these kind of activities. Okay, uh, or sometimes those common use property, they are used by those tribal communities or scheduled caste community for their any kind of cultural activities. Okay, so more concern should be there. Okay, to whenever you are using those common properties or the areas which is inhabited by those scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Okay, so sometimes those areas are commonly used by those communities. So if you, in any way those common use properties are affected, then it can be considered as the offense against those tribal communities. Okay, uh, and another thing is that forced labor. Um, sometimes they are forced to do beggary. Okay, or you bring those because they belong to those downtrodden society, and in the weaker sections of the society, you force them to be as a bonded laborer. Okay, you kept them for several years and exploit them by not giving them their actual remuneration or wages, and kept them in a particular closed area. Okay, so that can also be considered as the offense against those tribal communities. You have seen that many child laborers from those scheduled caste and scheduled tribe community, they are kept as a helpers to the household activities, and they are tortured. There are many instances which have been noticed or which has been published by the newspapers and your media, any form of media. Okay, so those are considered as the forced laborers. Like in bricklins, you have seen that, or the work done by the child laborers belonging to those scheduled caste and scheduled tribe community. Okay, so they are not known to the different laws and regulations of the non-tribal communities. Okay, or the constitutional safeguards. They are ignorant about those kind of constitutional safeguards. Okay, so you bring them by false, you can say, promises, or any or in any way, and keep them as a uh, bonded laborer. Okay, definitely it will be considered as a offense. And where another area where those atrocities are happening are is that in the legal or in the administrative scenario. Okay, there are some negligences there which can also be considered as the atrocities on these tribal communities. Okay, like committing any offense under the Indian Penal Code punishable with imprisonment for a term of 10 years or more against a person or property on the ground that such person is a member of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Such property belong to such members shall be punishable with the imprisonment of life and with fine. Okay, and knowingly or having reason to believe that an offense has been committed under this chapter, cause any evidence of the commission of that offense to disappear with the intention of screen the offender from the legal punishment. Okay, and being a for example, being a public servant committing any offense under this section shall be punishable with the imprisonment of a term which shall not be less than 1 year, but which may extend to the punishment provided by uh, for that offense. Okay, if a public servant, that person is neglecting some kind of duty that has to be rendered to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribal community, so that can also be considered as the atrocities. Okay, willingly neglecting of duties by the public servant required to be performed by him who is not a member of SCST, resulting in the harm of SCSTs. Okay, it can also be considered as an atrocities against that community. Okay, so knowingly you are neglecting your service just to harm those community. Okay, and another special provision which has been given to the this community is that is the provision of the panchayat extension to the scheduled area, which was in the 1996, that is popularly known as the PESA Act. PESA. Okay, so PESA Act, which was came into force in 24th December 1996. Okay, the notion behind this act was to extend the 73rd constitutional amendment of 1993. okay, to the scheduled area so as to enable the tribal society to assume control over their own destiny, to preserve and converse their traditional rights over the natural resources. Okay, so in addition to the 73rd constitutional amendment, okay, and to those scheduled area, the PESA has been came into force. Okay, so by these act, you will see that they can have a control over their own destiny, and they can preserve and converse their traditional right over the natural resources. Okay, so as we have already discussed that our previous classes, that how through different policies, and for example through those forest policies, we have tried to snatch their rights over different resources. Okay, so those kind of that the differentiation or the detachment from their rights over the natural resources, okay, that is facilitated by this PESA Act. Okay, so they can have that kind of right to use on their own their natural resources. Okay, so sometimes it is called as the modified version of the 73rd constitutional amendment. Okay, so and like in our previous class we have discussed that some of the acts which are not applicable, or the safeguards which are not applicable to the few states of northeast, like this act is also, it is not applicable to the Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram. Okay, because they are under the sixth schedule of the constitutions. The this act, okay, so this act, it tries to recognize the prevailing traditional practices and customary laws of the local people, beside the management and conservation of natural resources through gram panchayats. Okay, so mm, it is not concerned, not only concerned to the use of natural resources. Okay, rather these, through this act they can also know what are the common resources that are used by the tribal communities, okay, or the local communities, and how those resources will be meaningfully used by those local communities. Okay, so it has decentralized the existing approaches to the forest governance by bringing Gram Sabha to the center stage. Okay, and recognize the traditional rights of tribal over the community resources. Okay, so in decentralization of power, we have seen that the local level institutions, they are being empowered. Okay, so here in PESA, you will see the Gram Sabha is the center of all the power. Okay, or that body will decide uh, the different other things, like you will uh, mm, like the Gram Sabha, it is important in the context like to approve the plans and programs, projects for the social and economic development uh, before they are taken off for the implementation by the village panchayats. Okay, so before the implementation by the panchayats, it will be placed in the Gram Sabha for the approval. Okay, if that plans, policies and program or the projects is going to be implemented or not. Okay, they will evaluate, they will give different suggestions. Okay, the pros and cons will be discussed in the Gram Sabha, then only if it is approved by the Gram Sabhas, then it will be implemented in the areas. Okay, so it, that act, it also tries to identify the beneficiaries of poverty alleviation programs. You have seen that who is going to get the houses under different hours yojanas. Okay, so these Gram Sabha will identify the person or the beneficiaries. Okay, definitely they have their different parameters to choose those beneficiaries. Okay, and that should be honored. Okay, so these gram sabha are empowered to choose those beneficiaries of different poverty alleviation programs. Okay, who is going to get the awas houses through those different awas yojana, who is going to get that who will be the teacher of those anganwadis or valwadis. Okay, maybe they have a different scrutinizing processes are there, but the gram sabha's opinion is accepted or it matters. Okay, so those kind of decisions are taken by the gram sabhas, and gram sabhas are empowered with those kind of decision. And third is that to give certification or utilization of fund by the panchayats. Sometimes, as we have seen that if we are taking certain kind of projects, so that certification we give to the institution how we have used that fund. Okay, clearance certificate, for example, we how this fund has been used, you you are going to deposit to the institution. So these gram sabha will evaluate those fund management. Okay, they will sanction that certificate or utilization certificate to the different, for example, the local institution, that is PRIs, panchayat raj institutions. Okay, and it also recommends uh, consultations of the concerned authorities in the matter of land alienation and land transfer, as is the authority with the recommendatory power. Okay, so sometimes if any issues which are related to the land alienation and land transfer, they can be bring back to those gram sabhas. Okay, they can also suggest to the local administration how to dispose that case. Okay, so in this way those gram sabha they have been empowered. So the gram sabha they are bring to the center of all powers. Okay, and like sometimes it is considered this is a part of your self governance. Okay, and um, and it is a medium through which these tribal villages they are considered as the smaller unit of uh, smaller unit of your self rule, or little republic you can say. Okay, so within their jurisdiction or within their local areas they will dissolve their issues. Okay, and what are the major prospects of this PESA Act 1996? Those are, you will see, this act has a constitutional mandate and a binding law to put a legal and moral pressure on the government and its mechanisms to impose it. Okay, so because it is a act which has become an act, so you will see the local body, the local governing body or the local administrative body, they have a pressure to implement that PESA Act. Okay, and the second is that you will find there is a qualitative change in the very notion of the tribal development. Okay, so as the Panchashil Niti, which was saying that the development of tribal community, it should not be evaluated in a quantitative form. It should be evaluated in a qualitative form. Okay, so there is a qualitative change in the very notion of the tribal development. There is no more distribution of fund, but a paradigm shift which consists in its basic assumption that tribal community is com- uh, competent, like they should not be considered as the beneficiaries only. Okay, they can also manage, or they can also bring the development by themselves. Okay, so they can think what is development is and how development can be brought. So they can act the various role, in various role to bring that development. Okay, and to safeguard and preserve their tradition and custom, their cultural identity, community resources, and customary mode of dispute the resolutions. Okay, so uh, they have that ability to safeguard and preserve their tradition and custom, their cultural identity, or the community resources and the customary mode of dispute any kind of issues. Okay, so they have their ability. It should be recognized that notion has changed. Yes, tribal communities have some kind of potential, or they are competent enough to do these kind of activities. They should not be considered as the subject, or you can say the policies and programs should not consider them as the, yes, these are the group which should be cater certain kind of fonts in any of the policies and programs. Okay, so but they can considered as the subject to bring any kind of development to those areas. Okay, so third perspective is that mm, the development is projected as collective. The approval of plans, programs, and projects for the social and economic development is the responsibility of the entire village. Okay, if Gram Sabha is in the center, you can imagine that a village, uh, sometimes generally they are not, they are the constituent of various kind of community. Okay, so you have seen that it may be consist of the in a caste village, you will see that there will be various kind of caste community who will constitute that Gram Sabha. Okay, so that policies and program have a collective approval. Okay, so everyone's opinion will be there. So the community members from the different group, they are given equal chance to give their opinion over those projects and over those programs. Okay, or any kind of plans. Okay, so there is a chance, or there is a opportunity for the different sections of the that local group. Okay, where they can place their opinion for their development. Okay, so that it has a characteristics of that is collective development is coming. Okay, so as prior to your constitution, 73rd constitutional amendment, we have a bottom top to bottom approach. Okay, but after that 73rd constitutional amendment, we try to prefer that bottom up approach. Okay, so in PESA we are seeing that uh, that how the development will be brought, that is collectively opined. Okay, what should be the mode, what should be the medium, okay, what should be the objectives, what should be the preference. Okay, so that is all decided by the local groups or by the community members itself who are residing, or for whom that plan is being projected or planned. Okay, so that is decided by the community members itself. Okay, and fourth is that the idea of empowerment is based on the notion of decentralization. Okay, so you are trying to empower the different sections of the that local community. Okay, you are decentralizing the power. Okay, so in those Gram Sabha, the panchayats are not deciding. Okay, or the community head, for example, in a non-tribal community society, in a caste community, you will see there are certain dominant castes there. Okay, so the leader of those dominant castes, it is not deciding. Okay, so everyone is given the equal chances and opportunity to uh, decide or to give opinion. Okay, so there is a that empowerment concept. It is based on the notion of decentralization. If you are giving the equal opportunities and equal chances to every community, so you are empowering them. Okay, the higher level of panchayat that do not interfere with the lower. Okay, so and fifth is that there is a provision of accountability uh, to monitor all kinds of financial transaction to avoid any irregularities. Okay, so the funds are available to the Gram Sabha as per the need, and for every paisa, the panchayat is accountable to Gram Sabha. Okay, so mm, so you have seen that if the fund is concentrated to a particular individual or to a particular institution. Okay, so there is a higher chance of malpractices or any kind of irregularities is going to happen. You will see that because the person has a sole power to disperse those funds, to use those funds. Okay, so accountability lies to that single individual only. Okay, so the PESA Act, uh, through that act, the accountability lies with the Gram Sabha. Okay, so you will see that the Gram Sabha, as per the need or and for the every paisa, uh, how they have used the punches they have used, definitely they will be accountable to the Gram Sabhas. So every fact sheets or every balance sheet, it will be discussed in the Gram Sabha. Okay, how much the fund is and how those fund has been used. Okay, it will be discussed in the Gram Sabha. Okay, so definitely the chances of irregularity will be minimum. Okay, and sixth is that the Gram Sabha, its supreme end, is endowed with the power to have control over the water, minor minerals, drinks, or minor forest products, alienation and restoration of the tribal lands, market, and over the system of debt. Okay, so they are they can have a control over all these things. Okay, like water bodies, minor mineral products, drinks, minor forest product, or the issues like alienation and restoration of the land. Okay, or market, on these things they have a control. And seventh is that there is recognition of the traditional ways of settling the disputes. It avoid the bureaucratization of the justice. Okay, for example, for any kind of land disposition issues. Okay, if you are going with the bureaucratic procedure of resolving that issue, it may take a longer time and cost, large cost. Okay, so if sometimes that issue can be easily resolved in the Gram Sabhas. Okay, so PESA Act recognize uh, that kind of characteristics of Gram Sabha. Okay, so if those issues are resolved in, if the party want to resolve the issues in those Gram Sabha, let them. Okay, so that can be easily resolved in those local bodies, in those local political bodies. Okay, and eighth is that through that 33rd uh, constitutional amendment, or you can say 33rd means the one third constitutional amendment, sorry, one third constitutional amendment, you will say the women empowerment it has in a boost. Okay, so they are because of that reservation, or because of that one third reservation, the participation level has increased in those local areas. Okay, so the empowerment level mean you can say because of that one third reservation, women has got a chance to empower them in a political forum. Okay, so this ESA Act, in this way it is empowering the local bodies and the uh, mm, and the local institutions. Okay, so see, in your last prospect we have seen that the equal chance of every section is given to the women also. Okay, so we have not ignored the women category. Women has, they have been given a separate forum where they can exercise their power, or where they can place their views. Okay, so they are also considered as a active member in bringing development. Okay, so, like all other policies and programs, you will find this PESA Act has also its criticisms. Okay, as we have seen that mm, the local bodies or Gram Sabha, they have been empowered. Okay, and after the implementation of PESA, the traditional structure it has not broken. Okay, so the Gram Sabha, it is continuing with those traditional structure or composition. Okay, so you cannot say that after the that PESA Act they have dissolved that traditional structure. It has dissolved. Okay, still they are continuing with their traditional structure. Means the dominant are still dominating. Okay, and there is a class of interest. Okay, so and you will see there is a difficulties for the bureaucrats to handle these gram Sabha's issues, or to accommodate the recommendations of this gram Sabha. Okay, so because the you will see the dominant party, political party, or the dominant caste group, or the community group's opinion, it cannot be those cannot be sometimes accommodated. Okay, so there is a class of interest when this PESA Act is enacted. Okay, you will find various kind of issues which are arising when the PESA Act was it is enacted. Okay, so for example, uh, the local bureaucrats, they have a less importance. Okay, so they cannot forcibly implement the policies and programs. Sometimes the recommendations, it maybe seems that for those bureaucrats like illogical or irrational, but they have to obey. Okay, so that kind of differentiation is found out. Okay, like for those tribal communities, many practices are illogical or irrational for those bureaucrats. Okay, but they have to obey. Okay, so they have to bear with that perceptions. Okay, so that kind of thing is happening, and it is getting more delayed. Okay, and bureaucrats are uncomfortable about the powers of the panchayats. Okay, so they are more, panchayats are more powerful than the bureaucratic power or those bureaucrats. Okay, and there is a lack of awareness and understanding among the elected functionaries of officials. Okay, uh, and antisocial elements are getting elected, and politicians are using them. For examples, in those gram sabha or in those panchayats, there are many bureaucratic positions are there. Okay, so ward member or sarpanch. Okay, or there are many places, many positions which has been created by those decentralization of power or the PRIs. Okay, so in those positions, in those bureaucratic positions or in those political positions, okay, these less aware individuals or the miscreants or the you can say antisocial individuals, they are getting elected and they are being used by those bureaucrats. Okay, so as we are talking about the equal chances and equal opportunities for the different sections of the society or for the different groups of those local body, so that may not be happening. Okay, sometimes it is only in a pen paper because the dominancy of those miscreants or those antisocials, okay, that can be prevailing in those areas. Okay, and you will see, yes, gram sabha is functioning, people are going, but they are not participating. They are just going there and giving attendance, physical presence is there, but not intellectual participation. Okay, their views may not be accepted by those gram sabhas. Already the decision, it has been already made in those gram sabha, and they're just being informed about those decisions. Okay, so that kind of instances are also there. Okay, so as we have seen that the traditional that top to bottom approach, it still continues in those gram sabha also in regard to those social compositions of those traditional gram sabhas. Okay, so in one day or in any particular, after a particular point, that traditional social structure will get dissolved, it is not happening. Okay, it is not possible. Still they are continuing with those traditional social structure. Okay, and because of this PESAT, you will see the polarization and segmentation of the village population, it is happening. Okay, on the basis of caste, religion, ethnicity. Okay, so it is against that people's democracy. So we have decentralized the bureaucracy, or we have decentralized the power of democracy, just to, just for a purpose that this democracy will be enjoyed by the each and every sections of the people. But for that purpose, you are saying that they are getting more united, means individually, group wise. Okay, so the gram sabha as a whole, it will function, it is not happening. Rather, how many groups you can find in those gram sabha, that is happening just to acquire that power, just to acquire that positions. Okay, for example, in this election, from our community, the panchayats, or means the sarpanch should be there. Okay, so they are being divided. Okay, democratically those individuals are not elected. Okay, so you will see various other antisocial means they are being used just to just to get that person elected. Okay, so that things are happening. The polarization and the more tight segmentation of the village population, it is happening. It means who will get that power? Okay, for that power position, village people are getting scattered or they are getting divided. Okay, So in a negatively, it is uh, resulting. The PESA Act, it is negatively, it is resulting in the, if it is in the if it is talked in the context of cooperation, or in a in a other way they are getting united for that particular purpose. Okay, so another another act which is solely for the still tribe is that, that is forest right act. Okay, so forest dwelling scheduled tribes and recognize on of the forest right. Okay, act, that is which was enacted in 2006. Okay, so there are many forest dwelling communities are there, and you have seen that uh, that forest land, or by those forest dwellers, they use forest land uh, to for example, for their various kind of livelihood practices, or for their social and religious practices, or for, you can say, their political practices. It means they identify their locality with that forest. Okay, we are the dwellers of this particular hill, or the particular forest, from this place to that place. Okay, so their geographical location means political map will be confined to that particular forest. Okay, so forest is an important aspect of those tribal communities. Okay, so this Forest Right Act, it recognized the forest right and occupation of scheduled tribes and forest dwelling communities who have been residing in such forest for generation, but whose rights were not recognized. Okay, so this act provides a framework for uh, recording and recognizing the rights of other forest dwelling communities in respect to the forest and forest spread resources. Okay, so as we have seen that, passing on various decades, their forest right, or the rights over the forest, it is receding. Okay, it is gradually decreasing. Okay, so this Forest Act, it has tried to recognize those those rights on the forest, and how records of those rights, and recognition of those recognizing and recording of those rights. Okay, for example, like, they have a right to use those forest lands for the gazing purpose. Okay, or for the firewood purpose. Okay, they have a right is to collect the non-timber forest product or minor forest product from the forest, uh, just to mm, just to have their livelihood. Okay, so these kind of rights should be recognized, and this should be recorded. Okay, this act also include responsibility and sustainable use, biodiversity conservation, and maintaining the ecological balance. Those act seeks to strengthen the conservation regime while ensuring livelihood and food security of the scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers. Okay, so you can see that there are many communities who are residing in forest, but may not be they are in a scheduled list. Okay, so they are considered as the other traditional forest dwellers. Okay, but they may not have the name in the schedule, or they are not considered the scheduled caste or scheduled tribes. Okay, so the act accepts that it was a historical injustice during the colonial and post colonial periods. Okay, not to have recognized the tribal rights on the ancestral lands. In 1894, the Land Acquisition Act was passed by the British to relax the laws to acquire land. In 1984, in the independent India, the act was amended not to give more rights to the tribals, but rather to relax the existing laws, further to take the land away from the owners. Okay, so the act which was enacted in 1894, in 1984 there was not much differences were there. Okay, some kind of amendment, some kind of relaxation has been given. Okay, so what are the major rights of forest dwellers and the other traditional forest dwellers? Let's discuss. Okay, the like you have seen that in recent years, the central governments uh, uh, it is giving numbers of rights to the uh, forest dwellers or the traditional forest dwellers, like giving pattas to the uh, forest land occupied as per the cut of debt. Okay, so the person who are residing in those forest land, they are giving the land pattas. Okay, and they are also given the ownership rights to the forest resources, grazing rights, and the including the seasonal ones, nomadic communities, habitation rights for those classified as the primitive tribal groups, conservation of the forest village into conversion of the forest village in the into the revenue villages. That is uh, through that conversion, you are giving the different other rights. Okay, if that village will be considered as the revenue village, so various policies and programs will be easily implemented in those areas. Okay, so you are trying to make available of all those policies and programs to those forest areas or to the forest dwellers also. Okay, the act also ensured that no tribal shall be evicted for currently occupied from the currently occupied land until the process of determining rights is completed. It means if for any kind of purpose, for example mining or dam purpose, till their current rights, it has not been decided where to locate them, what are the facilities they are going to get, what are the alternative economic resources you are giving them, occupational resources you are giving them. Okay, or what are the natural surroundings you are providing them for their socio-cultural practices. Till those things has not been decided, you cannot evict them from the current localities. Okay, so the colonies, those colonies which are established, it should have all those uh, parameters or all those things which are available or which are enjoyed by the individual in the current locations. Okay, so that should be taken care of, and that is taken care of in this forest right act. Okay, so what is the difference of those previous laws and the present rights, present forest right act? Okay, so the past forest laws enacted by the colonial government, it did not give any rights to the tribals on forest. Okay, because they are considered, they are just a burden on those forest land or the encroachers on their forest land. Okay, because they are resisting when colonials bureaucrats, they are extracting different kind of resources from the forest, so they are considered as the encroachers. Okay, or the obstruct in the process of extracting different minerals or the different kind of resources from the forest. So the colonial government took away the forest land and restricted the tribals rights over the forest. Okay, and the act treat tribals as the encroachers. The tribals had in fact right over the forest before the enactment of the forest act by the Britishers. Definitely, they have that rights. They were freely using the different forest resources before the British entered in India. Okay, so the new act has received appreciation for recognizing the forest rights of the forest dwelling scheduled tribes and other tribal traditional forest dwellers over the forest where they have inhabited from time immemorial. Okay, so the act has also been appreciated for acknowledging the acknowledging that there has been a historic injustice done to the tribes. Okay, so the basic difference is that the British Forest Act, it has taken away the forest rights over the rights of tribal community on the forest, and these right it has recognized that rights. Okay, and it has tried to recognize that taking away those rights were the historical, it is the injustice to them. That is the only difference you can see. Okay, and what are their perspective, what are the tribal communities perspectives on the forest land? Okay, you can see that uh, the act seeks to convert the forest villages into the revenue villages. So, source conversion is due for a long time in order to ensure the democratic means of governance and infrastructural development. As we said that various plans and policy, it will easily reach to those revenue villages. Okay, so because those were planned in such a way that to those specific villages, means if the village is a revenue village, then only they will get those facilities. Okay, but it should be realized that many of the forest villages are inhabited by the migrant laborers. Okay, so just to convert those forest villages to a revenue village, it will not serve the purpose, because we have to identify the actual inhabitants or the traditional inhabitants of those locality. Okay, as we have already discussed that migration is a problem in those tribal areas, like many forest dwellers, they have migrated from the other state or the other localities to those areas. So by converting them to a revenue village, you are trying to legally accepting those individuals. Okay, so and some of them are the non-tribals. Okay, you have seen that instances like if any kind of war or riots it is happening in the nearby neighborhood localities, so they will definitely migrate to another safer place. Okay, safest place or the safer place. Okay, so they can be the non-tribals. If you are converting those forest villages in a revenue village, so they may be considered as the legal occupier or the legal owner of those areas. Okay, so you have seen that a large numbers of forest villages in North Bengal have a Nepalis and Adivasi migrants. Okay, they have migrated from the Nepal, and ensuring customer rights to these people may not be to the link liking to the host scheduled tribe population. Okay, so just to convert them into the revenue village and ensuring all the rights, it may be protested by the local scheduled tribes community. Okay, so government should not take, or it should take appropriate step to rehabilitate them in other areas. Okay, first rehabilitate those migrants or those refugees to other place, then convert those areas as the revenue village. Okay, so though the act speaks about the grassroots management through gram sabha, uh, it is silent about the inclusion of PRIs to the subdivisional and district level. Gram sabha is reduced to being just ancillary to the state. Okay, so so in many instances, uh, you have like in pesa we have said that gram sabha, they're brought in the center stage for the dissemination of power. In other instances like the panchayat raj PRIs, panchayat raj institutions, its role, it has not been mentioned. Okay, how they are going to negotiate, how, what should be the relations with the gram sabha. So okay, so those things are not clearly mentioned. Okay, so undoubtedly the scheduled tribes and the other forest dwellers act in 2006 is another landmark measure for the protection of the forest rights of the tribals. And this act recognized the forest rights and the occupation in forest land in the forest dwelling scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers who have been residing in such forests for generations but whose rights were not recognized. These rights provides a framework for recording the forest rights. Uh, mm, and another you can say the criticism is that is this act has betrayal, since the definition of forest dwelling scheduled tribes and the other traditional forest dwellers uh, refers to the those who primarily reside in the forest. And so you will find there is some terminological differences is there, and by those terms some groups will be included and some groups will be excluded. Okay, it will be like that the deserving will lose the actual things and non-deserving community may get those all those facilities. Okay, so this should be in whenever this is enacted, this should be taken into considerations. Okay, and the fourth and a third unit of this block, the second block, it says generally what are the common property resources are there, and what are the tribal territories is there. Okay, and what is those tribal territories and common property resources are there, and how you are classifying those common property resources, and what are the legislative rates and tribal for the tribal territories, how those tribal common property resources, how they are getting declined. Okay, so we have seen that from the very beginning we are saying uh, mm, tribal community, they don't have that that is private ownership about those various kind of resources. As recently when we are discussing that forest right act, those forest right are commonly owned. Okay, they may not have the common private ownership on the different resources. Okay, like on water or on the land or on the forest. For example, in non-tribal society you have a private ownership on all your resources, like this is my land, this is my water source, and this is my livelihood source. Okay, so you solely own those on those resources. You have a right over private right over those resources. Okay, so in the In the tribal community, they may not have those kind of rights. Okay, so common property resource, it includes the resources gathered by the rural household from the village commons and forest for the personal use and sale, for food, fuel, fodder, fibre, or small timbers and manure, bamboo, medical herbs, oils, material for housing, okay, housing, buildings, and handicrafts, resin, gums, honey, spices, and so on. There are many things which can be called as the uh, common property resources for the individuals, for the tribal individuals. Okay, so from a common source, they collect all those things. For example, for food, all the tribal community, all the families of that particular community, they may depend on the forest for any kind of fruit, or for any kind of, there are some edible flowers are there, there are some leafy vegetables are there. So all of them will go to that forest only, okay, to collect all those edible flower or edible leaf or edible timber, roots, fruit, etc. Okay, so so in a non-tribal community, you may have seen within your particular uh, area, or within your land, whatever it is producing or it is generating, it is yours, or else you have to buy it from the market. Okay, but for them, they will depend on every individual, or the every household, they will depend on that common one forest, or on that local forest only. Okay, so every household, they will collect their firewood from that local forest, and they will try to collect those resin, gum, honey, or spices from that local forest only. Okay, so and another the identification of forest resources is that uh, the resources, those resources in which a group of people has co-equal use rights, especially right that exclude the use of those resources by the other peoples. It means the leaf from that local forest, it will be only used by the local individual, the villagers only. The other village may not have the right over to that local forest. Okay, so they may have the another site or another patch of forest which is considered as their common uh, resource area, common property resource area. Okay, so it will specially right that exclude the use of those resources by the other people. Individual membership in the group of co-owners is typically conferred by the membership in some or other groups, such as village or tribes. Okay, so these CPRs, means common property resources, their importance uh, to the rural poor, because they meet the basic need of those village communities, such as fuel, fodder, green manures, food, timber, and other materials. Okay, so that's why it is considered that if the forest is detached from the uh, those forest dwellers, or the from the tribal community, they will get extinct. Okay, so for every small kind of needs that depend on the forest, uh, common property resources. Okay, like for the food, for the medicine, for the house, or you can say for clothes. Okay, like they will depend on the forest to collect those different kind of different kinds of thing to collect the thread, or that for the textile industries or textile tools. Okay, cottage industry. Okay, they will depend on those forest. So they'll collect those cocoons from the forest and use it for their textile cottage industries. Okay, so you can mm, identify various areas, those inhabited by the tribal community, of different kind of common property forest resources. Okay, like you can see that some of the areas of northeast, they are reached with bamboos. Okay, some of the areas of this Odisha or central India belt, they are reached with certain other kind of that is house and minerals, or the stones, okay, which is used for their ornaments. Okay, and you have seen that, like the hills like Gandhamardan Parvats, hills. Okay, so thousands of hops are present in that hills. Okay, so they will depend. Some of the areas are concentrated with those kind of common property resources. Okay, they are identified with those common property resources. Okay, uh, to see the what is you can say, to categorize those things, uh, those common property resource, you have to study the various areas, how they are enriched or how they are reached with different common property resources. Okay, and sometimes, or in a present context, you will see that those common property resources, they are getting polluted, or they are declining because of uh, the act of non-tribals itself, largely by the act of the non-tribal itself. Okay, so uh, mining, okay, that is not done by the tribal community, as we have seen that they are still with those pre-modern times of livelihood system. Okay, and as we said that, discussed that they use forest for the timbers for their household house building, but that is those houses that are not used for a use, or it is not built in a capitalistic purpose. Okay, it is just for their basic need they are building. So there will be a least exploitation on the forest. Okay, but whenever the forest it is used by the non-tribal communities, the large or the maximum exploitation is on the forest. So the by act of those non-tribal communities, the deterioration of those forest common property, or the common forest, it is getting more. Okay, so it is getting more deteriorated. There are some legislations are there to protect those forest land, like as we have said, discussed that the Forest Conservation Act in 1980s, and we have also discussed that the Forest Right Act, and where the different rights of in tribal communities over the forest, it is recognized. And also the PESA, we have discussed that it it tries to bring the Gram Sabha to protect and preserve those common properties. Okay, so they can manage the local forest or the nearby forest. Okay, so there are many acts which has been implemented by the government, by the post India government, to protect and preserve those common property of tribal communities. Okay, and so in your fourth unit, you will see there are many conventions and covenants which is done in an international forum to identify the different rights, or to identify the different issues of tribal communities, like the UNO, ILO, or UNO even declaration of various rights. It has tried to identify what are the major issues of tribal communities in the different sites or the different areas of world, and how those issues can be resolved. uh, they have also suggested, and different right has been declared by them. Okay, like you have seen that ILO convention 107, which was uh, held in 1957. Okay, so various articles they have, it has been conferred to the individual, like article 2 to 5 deals with the protection and integration of these population with the national communities. Okay, so international concern is there over those uh, non-tribal communities. Okay, and article 3 deals with the rights to the citizenship of these population without discrimination. Okay, so as the in India we have constitutions to protect their different kind of livelihood. Okay, so we have constitutional safeguards for any kind of violation if there. So internationally, it can be taken care of. Okay, so they are also concerned over the these kind of things, like uh, uh, scheduling, rescheduling. Okay, or citizen. Like uh, we have raised the issue of the migrant from other countries in those forest areas. Okay, how their issues will be taken care of, that can be also resolved by those international bodies. Okay, article 4 of this ILO convention 107, it says that it deals with the protection of cultural and religious values of these peoples. Okay, and article 1 to 14 deals with the matters concerned with the land of these peoples. Okay, and Article 15 deals with the employment of the indigenous people. Mm, yes, there are many articles which have been given that to protect their rights. Okay, in different dimensions. Okay, and ILO Convention 169 of 1980. It has also tried to preserve different rights, like preservation of cultural rights and identity, article 2 to 5, preservation of value system 2 to 5, uh, preservation of protection of environment and territory, article 4 to 7, no discrimination, freedom, self determination, article 4, 347, human rights, article 9 to 12, article 13 to 19 deals with the issue concerning with land rights, land alienation, forced displacement, rehabilitation, relocation, public inquiries in the areas, in these areas, uh, in these matters, compensation, land transformation, and so on. Okay, there are so this article, this convention, ILO Convention 169 of 1989. It has also concerned. It have also concerned over the various kind of rights, and when UN has also declared many rights for the indigenous people, like right to freedom and absence of discrimination, right to self determination, protecting them from the forced assimilation and integration, like forcefully converting them to the various religion. Okay, or forced displacement, uh, revitalization of history. It means policies and programs and projects should be taken to revive their histories. Uh, what were their cultural past? Okay, from where they have migrated, what is the current location, and from where they have migrated, what is their geographical history is there, cultural history is there. All these things should be taken care of, or all these things should be researched. Okay. And right to decision making process. Okay, so UN has also declared many rights for the indigenous people. Okay, a right to the indigenous women, youth, children, and person with disabilities. Okay, so they are more. For India, we have tried to uh, see different individual, means all the groups, they have been seen as a single unit. But UNO, they have concerned these unit with different special categories, like rights to indigenous women, youth, children, and person with disabilities. Okay, so the special attention has been given to the different sections of those tribal communities. Okay, and with all other mm, tribal communities scenario in the world, the Indian tribal community scenario is different. Okay, and because of their historical issues which is present, and historical structure which is present in India. Okay, so coming to the third block of this paper, that is your the you can say the understanding the tribals. So we have four units in this block. That is, first unit is tribal status and development strategy. Development strategy, already we have discussed what were the development strategies in the pre-independence era and the post-independence era. And second unit is that education and training for the tribals. Third unit is with the health and nutrition of the tribals. And fourth is the empowerment of the tribals. Okay, so in the for the first unit, we have already discussed the development strategies, and to concern with the tribal status. Okay, so it deals mainly. Uh, it has defined who are the tribal communities in India. Okay, concerned with how those tribal community have been defined through the ages. Okay, and how constitution is uh, uh, is silent about the definition of tribal communities. Okay, and it has given the situation of tribals in India, uh, like uh, you can say situation means what is the demographic status of tribal communities in India. It means you have seen that as in the 2011 census, 705 numbers of tribal communities, 705 numbers of tribal community they have been identified. Okay, so after the passage of one decade, you can see that there are addition to those numbers. Okay, some denotification will be there, some inclusion will be also there. Okay, and you can see that these tribal communities are located, the location or the inhabitation of those tribal community, it has been divided into uh, broadly five major categories. Okay, five or six major categories. Okay, the first is that is northeastern region. Okay, which is the seven sister state we considered, that will considered that will take the Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, and the tribes who are living in these areas are Abor, Garo, Khasi, Kuki, Misni, Naga, and the racial dynasty to which they belong is there. Most of them are the Mongoloids. Okay, so they belong to that Mongoloid racial stock. And Himalaya region, it is the sub-Himalayan areas covering part of North Bengal, Sikkim, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh. Okay, so these geographical location, it will differ from the various researcher to researcher. Okay, some of them may cover this North Himalayan tribals and North Himalayan tribal groups as a one. Okay, some of them will divide into different categories. Okay, in this Himalayan tribal region, you may find the tribes like Lepcha, Bhutia, Arava. Okay, and these are also belong to the that Mongolian tribal racial stock. Okay, so the third category is your central India. That is mainly your Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal, and the racial stocks which are present is your Proto-Australoid. Okay, and the tribes which are present in these areas are Bumis, Gond, Ho, Oran, Munda, Santal. Okay, so mainly these category belong to that Proto-Australoid group. Okay, in the western region like Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Dadra Nagar Haveli. Okay, and the tribal communities are mainly the Bhil. Okay, and they are also belong to that Proto-Australoid group. Okay, sometimes researcher, it will they will club those community on the basis of this racial stock and their geographical locations. Okay, in the southern region, the fifth category, that is your Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Nilgiri Hills, covering the lines of the Ghats, and the community which are living in these areas are Chenchu, Irula, Kadar, Kota, Kurumba, Toda, which is a pasturing community, and mainly the racial stocks which are found in these areas is Negrito, Caucasoid, and Proto-Australoid. Okay, and there also found some hybrid categories, mixed physical features you will find. Okay, and the last category is your island region, covering the Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep island, and the tribes are like Andamanese, Sentinelese, or Ong. Okay, so these kind of categories you will find, and the status of this tribal community, which is also stating that what are the major problems with the tribal communities based concerning to their localities or their geographical location. Okay, so in the north zone, stretching from Ladakh in the north is to the terrain region of the Uttar Pradesh, they are neglected by the authorities since British days. Okay, due to the because due to the remoteness of their habitat and difficult climatic conditions, still they are that negligence still continues. Okay, and they are in the limelight when the Chinese they invaded in those areas. After that, concern was given to them, or the some kind of importance was given to them. Okay, so in the eastern areas, eastern, central, and western areas comprising of the state of West Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, uh, here you will find, because it is a the cognitive uh, the river belt you will find. So maximum populations are there. It may be the tribal population, more than 50% of the tribal population inhabited in this region, in the central east region. Okay, so the population explosion and the exploitation on the land, it is the issue in those areas. Okay, like they are with the problem like land tenure system, indebtedness. Okay, rights of tribal forest, practice of shifting cultivation, coupled with the lower productions. Okay, so these are the issues in those central India. Okay, and in the southern areas, you will find they are also concerned with that primitive economic system. Okay, because they are still in those primitive economic system, that is shifting cultivations. Okay, so they have a issue with that muttadari land tenure system. Okay, and who are living in the island area, the most when I, burning issue or the most concerned issue you can say, that is uh, they are still in that primitive subsistent economy based on the fishing and cultivation of coconut. Okay, in addition to that, there are many other problems are there, uh, like extension of language, extension of population, issues related to demography decline. These are there in those island areas. Okay, and the tribal development programs, we have already discussed those things. What are the colonial policies and tribal policies are there, and in the pre-independence area, in era, and post-independence era, what are the different policies are there. Okay, and going to the different organizational setups, okay, or institutional setup which are built just to facilitate those policies and programs. Okay, so we have already noticed that uh, the responsibility to the tribal development of the tribe, development of the tribes, it is assigned to the Ministry of Home Affairs in 1964. Okay, and it is taken up by the new department that is called Department of Social Security. Okay, and in Ministry of Welfare was set up in the 1985. 85. Later on, it was renamed as the Ministry of Social Justice and Empower in 1998. Okay, and Ministry of Tribal Affairs, which was separated from the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment in 1999. Okay, so you will find now we have Ministry of Tribal Affairs, okay, which is separated from the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Okay, so this Ministry of Tribal Affairs, it has some kind of mandates. It has to do. Okay, so it is concerned with the social security and the social insurance to the STs, tribal welfare, promotion and development of tribal community. It will also take care the voluntary efforts by the different communities. It is also taking care of the scholarship of students belonging to the tribal communities, development of tribal communities in all sphere. Okay, it is more concerned. It also concerned to the development of tribal communities in including fifth and sixth schedule, uh, and it also implementation of the protection of civil rights and scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, prevention atrocities. These kind of acts, if it is well taken care by the different state, it is also taking care of those kind of things. Okay, and in your second unit, you will find that uh, what are the different issues, education and training of tribals. As we know that the the education, so you have seen that it implies the transmission of what is worthwhile and to those who become committed to it. Okay, it must it involves knowledge, understanding, and some kind of cognitive perspective, which are not inert. Okay, education at least rule out some procedure of transmission on the ground that they lack willingness and willing to volunteer on the part of the learners. Okay. So in 1986, new policy on education. Okay, it defined education as the unique investment in the present and future that leads all-round development all-round development, material and spiritual development. Okay, so there is as we know that the literacy rate of this tribal community is very low than the other non-tribal communities. Okay, so there is a need to improve the literacy rate. And it is a potential, it is considered as the most potential tool to emancipation, for the emancipation of empowerment for the tribal community. So through education you can bring empowerment among the tribal communities. Okay. And you can see that because of various kind of issues, uh, uh, the the tribal communities literacy rate is very low. Okay, you can see that the language, okay, or the geographical locations, this plays a major role for the that low level of literacy. Okay, so government has introduced many schemes and policies for the tribal education. One of them is your SSA, that is Sarva Sakhya Vision. And here you have already we have discussed that how how it is taking care for the development of tribal education. For example, it's tried to set up the schools in the nearby localities where tribal concentration is there. Okay, text should, textbooks should be in the mother tongue language. Okay, and the curriculum should adopt the local relevant teaching learning materials for the tribal individuals. For example, they will prepare the teaching learning material whichever is available in that localities. Okay, like uh, uh, for example, it will be based on the local leaves, flower, etc., etc. Okay, so whichever is used in the local areas, that will be used in the teaching learning, that will be used as a teaching learning materials. Yeah. And special training will be given to the person who are employed in those areas, how they will more beneficial for the tribal communities. Okay, and special support will be given to those teachers, uh, and try to they will try SSA, it's try to deploy the community teachers. Means the members who are from those community, they will be more preferred. Okay, brief language courses will be given to the teachers, and the calendar should be prepared. The teaching calendar will be prepared based on the local calendars. Means like you must have seen that the local holidays are there based on their community practices. Okay, there are special plan for the nomadic groups and migrants communities, and you have seen that they, this SSA generally try to monitor the attendance and retention of the retention of the tribal communities. Okay, and another other kind of facility it has provided is that tribal research institutions. Okay, TRIs. There are 14 tribal research institutions are there in the state like Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Gujarat, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Manipur, and Tripura. Okay, these institutions are engaged in providing planning inputs to the state governments through conducting different kind of resources. Okay, and there is a central institute of languages, Indian languages, in the Mysore, which is trying to study different languages including the tribal language. Okay. And NIPA, it is also taking care of the special training of the special training, and it is trying to conducting the workshop and seminar on the issues like tribes and educations, and whatever may be the issues from the tribal community regarding to the issues. And UGC, it is trying to take care the exempting the tuition fees and trying to help the individual to overcome the language difficulties, okay, to clear your national eligibility test. Okay. And uh, author training are given to the tribal communities, like the vocational training to you have seen that they're given certain kind of trade training. Okay. And which is employ where the employment potentiality is more, they are given training to those local ITIs and some uh, that is non-governmental organization, individual volunteering organization. They are setting off those kind of training institute, which is giving training in some potential areas where they can earn something, and they are attached with the local polytechnics and ITIs. Okay. And they are giving the training for a certain period of time. They are also attaching those training to the local traders, for example artisan community or some other communities where the trading is happening. Okay. So in this way they are training the tribal community for different other kind of vocation. Okay. And training of age tribal communities are also there. They're giving training like to those age category: tailoring, typewriting, motor rewinding, okay, ecological farming, car driving, meat daily for the tribal women, cooperative management. Okay. And there are also community polytechnics out there for the tribal communities. Okay. uh, mm, uh, like as the problem concerning to the tribal education, we have stated that language and that is the geographical location. Another thing is that their cultural practices. For example, you will find that the attendance or enrollment will be there, but dropout is more. That is because it is related to their cultural livelihood practices, and it is colliding with the school timing. Okay. Those siblings are engaged in their the siblings of those tribal community, they will be more engaged in child care, okay, than entering into the school. Okay. So that are some issues are there concerning to those localities, and those are taken care that uh, the Anganwadis or Balwadis, they are adjacent to the local primary schools. Okay. So that both the siblings will be in the group in that particular learning institutions. Okay. So there are many instances are there, uh, issues are there, which is particularly concerned to that local tribal communities. And the third unit is, it is based on your health and nutrition of the tribal community. Okay. To understand the health, as the WHO's definition is that it is the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It is not merely the absence of disease or uh, infirmity. Okay. So for the tribal communities, you will see uh, they will perceive the health in a different way. Okay. So They may not accept the whose definition, they may not accept the non-tribal's definitions of health. Okay, sometimes it is just, it is if the person is not performing his or her routine work, then that person is disease or it is ill. Okay, or sometimes if the symptoms like headache, fever or pain, it is there, so that person is disease. Okay, so there are many perceptions of health is there, or health are there in the tribal communities. Okay, so there is a multiple health practices are there. Okay, and the health status of these tribal communities, mm, you can say it is most it is not with at par with the non-tribal communities. Okay, you have seen that the disease like uh, malnutrition, anemia, tuberculosis, or or uh, mm, that is called the skin disease. Okay, or some kind of other disease related to reproduction system. Okay, so those kind of diseases are still continuing, and the condition of primitive tribal groups on pp disease, that is more worse. Okay, and the what are the problems which is resulting these kind of negative health status is the geographical location. Okay, because of the geographical location, there is an unavailability and there is inaccessibility of these health facilities. Okay, so they have, they're inaccessible to those health practices, and their cultural practices like unhygienic health practices. Okay, so that amounts to the worst kind of health situation in those areas. Okay, and the belief in those some kind of that is spiritual and magico religious practices, you can say. Okay, it is commonly observed that across all the tribal communities, okay, the ancestral spirits, they play a major role in the protection of the health of tribal communities. Sometimes they perceive that they protect the health. Sometimes if they are not appeased, they can destroy or they can affect the negative health, or the health condition negatively. Okay, so these ancestor spirits are they are worshipped, and they plays a major role in their areas. Okay, and to communicate with those ancestral spirits, they try to depend on the traditional diviners. Okay, or the medicine man or the sorcerers. Okay, who can communicate with those traditional healers, with the ancestral spirits whenever there is any health crisis. Okay, so and there are other some magical religious practices they follow to appease those spirits. Okay, like sometimes they offer animals, birds, to appease those their ancestral spirits. Okay, and there are also malevolent spirits. They are the belief, the role of malevolent spirits in the cases of disease is there. Okay, uh, so they believe that kind of practices, and in the different strata, uh, like some of the group who are more integrated with the non-tribal community practices, they may have a accessibility to the non-tribal health practices. Okay, and uh, they may not depend on the tribal health practices, and those who are in the middle of the strata, they have more options. Okay, they can prefer the non-tribal, or they can prefer the tribal health practices. Okay, and who are in the lowest strata, who don't have, who are not exposed to the non-tribal health practices, they are confined with the available resources, whichever is available, they are confined with those kind of resources. Okay, so there are some uh, which are problems are there indicating, which should be indicated, investigated in the tribal areas. Those problems are like endemic disease like malaria, and introduced, which is introduced outside or otherwise, like TB, influenza, dysentery, high infant mortalities, okay, and malnutrition. These are the diseases which are present in those tribal pockets. Uh, and for example, the other diseases like HIVs, TVs, and STD, these are also found in the non-tribal areas. The causes, it can be the integration with the non-tribal communities or the migration. Okay, so they may bring those kind of disease into those localities. Okay, and there are some venereal diseases like include abortion, inbreeding, addiction to opium, custom of eating tubers of which are causing sterility, or it contains some kind of substances of oral contraceptions. Okay, so these are the areas or the diseases which are present in those locality, and which are the customary practices of the local communities. Okay, and nutrition related disease like malnutrition, anemia, that are the major problems for the women in India, also for the women of tribal communities. Okay, this should be taken care of. Okay, and uh, the factors which are influencing the health and the nutrition of the tribal communities are the physical environment, as we said, that the inaccessibility, it's results in the unavailability of the mm, uh, healthcare practices. Socioeconomic state, if they are not capable of availing the uh, that healthcare practices, that may be that is um, on affordability, I mean they cannot afford those healthcare practices, because they don't have that kind of socioeconomic standard to afford those healthcare practices. Okay, sometimes for their available healthcare practices, they are they are unable to afford those kind of practices. Okay, uh, nutritional availability and dietary habits, as we have seen that many of these tribal community, they don't include the protein intake in their diet. Okay, so the, as we have seen that for the food they depend on the forest. Okay, and in forest you will definitely find that leafy vegetables, edible flowers, some kind of timbers and roots. Okay, so protein intake is very less in those in the tribal dietary system. Okay, except those pastoral communities. Okay, and there are some psychosocial culture, like we have discussed, that they believe on the ancestral spirit, in some malevolent spirit for their health status. Okay, and healthcare practices, like they that they depend or they trust more upon their traditional healers than the than the modern medicine. Okay, and there are some patterns of mortality and morbidity is there. Okay, because of that malnutrition or dietary system or any other kind of health culture. Okay, and there are some disease which is resulted from genes like sickle cell. Okay. And genetic disease and disorders are there. And another fact is that ethnomedicine or ethnobotany, which is practiced by the tribal community, it is also affecting the tribal health. Okay. And as we have discussed that availability of rural healthcare facilities, health diversity system, like they have the availability of sometimes the modern healthcare practices, sometimes various ethnomedicine, some religious practices, some magic practices. Okay. Or like ayurveda, or you have seen that siddha. There are many healthcare practices which is available for them. Okay. So that diversity sometimes it is positively adding to the health status, or many times it is negatively affecting the health status of tribal communities. Okay. And so to overcome these issues, uh, state or the government, it has tried to adopt state with help with the help of non-governmental organization. It has tried to adopt many policies and programs, action plans to overcome these issues, like uh, to improve the nutrition. You have seen that in those tribal pockets, ICDS, integrated child development scheme, it is also implemented in those areas. Like through those livelihood practices, we are trying to improve the poultry and fisheries in those areas, for which they can take the protein in their uh, dietary intake. Okay. Or and we are trying to research more on those healthcare practices, nutrition practices. Okay. And all the maternal and child health care, it is also specially taken care in those tribal pockets areas. Okay. Like magruho, mobile healthcare practices in those inaccessible areas, that is also taken care. Okay. And distribution of vitamins. Okay. Oral rehydration therapy education. Okay. So as we have seen that uh, in those training institutions, local training institutions, we are also giving the training those ANMs. They can also be given those training, health training, to overcome this kind of health situations. Okay. And we are also trying researching on the genetic disorders to improve those genetic disorders. Okay. And trainings and health education, it is regularly being provided to those local healthcare practitioners, or the who are available in those areas, like asas and ANMs and Anganwadi teachers, and also the uh, local school teachers. Okay. They are well versed with those available healthcare practices. Okay. And in the local areas, local market areas, like village market or the local hattos. Okay. In that you are also providing mm, the modern healthcare practices, like PSCs. Okay. As we have noticed that in those local hattos, some the healthcare practitioners who don't have those degrees, they are giving the medicines. So in parallel to their presence, these modern medicines can also be available in those areas. So from a registered and a trusted institutions, they can take the healthcare practices. Okay. So there are many other healthcare practices, healthcare policies which are also implemented in those areas. Okay. And the last unit is that is empowerment of tribals. So we have understood that education is one of the major tool for the empowerment. And we have already studied that in a pre-independence era how they are being treated, and in a post-independence era how they are being treated, like the Nehruvian Panchashil Nitis. Okay, and also the constitution's protective measures and positive discrimination we have studied, and we have also discussed the reservation mechanism in different uh, sectors, like in education, jobs, and in the political scenarios. Okay, and how these protective discriminations, constitutional provisions, and the integration process, and the political reservation, like one-third reservations of the women's. Okay, it is definitely empowering the individuals, uh, especially the tribal communities, for the for to bring different kind of changes, or to bring different kind of changes, either the development or any form of changes they can bring. Okay, so politically, educationally, socially, we are trying to develop them. For example, like giving them with different other kind of uh, uh, vocational training. Okay, or including them in the microfinancing process, like SSGs. Okay, so we are socially and economically well trying to empowering them. Okay, uh, we are like we are making them available in the different institutions, and we are also empowering with different other powers. Okay, through reservation, we're trying to make them available in the different institutions. Yes, your presence should be there. Through different other kind of safeguards and the reserve, that different kind of acts, we are trying to include their voices, like in the PRIs we have reservations. Through the pesas we have tried to bring the how they can exercise their price, we are trying to bring that things. Okay, so we are closing here for your first papers, uh, that is your the, which is consisting of your three blocks, and uh, and half, each one having the 4 units. Okay, so in tribal studies you have covered in understanding the tribals, you have covered the tribal studies, and you have covered the tribal policies and legislation. You have also tried to cover the tribal development and tribals. Okay, and in our first uh, paper, or the first block, we have tried to cover the tribal studies, its evolution and nature, tribal studies, its definition and perspective in second unit, and your third unit you have we have discussed the tribal discourse and social science, what are the different approaches are there, and tribal indigeneity entity, how internationally the indigeneity is defined, and how in India how it is differently accepted. Or in the third block, in the second block, you have we have studied the historical perspectives on tribal policies, like pre-independence, colonial period, and post-independence, and in the present context, and what are the constitutional safeguards and provisions are there in our second unit. In our third unit, we have covered the tribal territories and common property resources. Okay, and what are the international conventions and covenants are there to for the different kind of rights, and for the different kind of provisions for the tribals in all over the world. And in our third block, that is the tribal status and tribal developmental strategy, and second unit is your education and trainings of tribals, and third unit is your health and nutrition of tribal, and fourth is your empowerment of tribals, uh, how empowerment of tribals in the India. Okay, so for today we are closing here. Thank you all. Good night.